48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Amazing championship that we are getting set for. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're watching from around the world. My name's Jake Sperry. Along with me for this one is Jeremy Scott. And Jeremy, it's great to be back with this championship. And the one thing I know from last championship to this one is the caliber of field has got even stronger if ever there was one.
You know, it's hard to say because we thought last season it was an absolutely fantastic field all throughout the grid. Now we take a look at some of the drivers, and it literally is some of the best GT3 racers you will see here on the system who are a part of this series this year.
Now, qualifying has already got itself underway. We've got two lots of races to get through. And it is James Boumet, the champion from last year, running the number one with a new team, Falcon Sim Racing, on the pole. Michael Evdoka is alongside Jack Sedgwick, and Nikolai Pulisen is there in fourth position. You've got Ross McFarlane fifth and Lucas Prada in sixth position. The best of the Pro-Ams is William Guthrie. He was the Pro-Am champion last year. He's stuck in Pro-Am. He starts seventh with Anders Mira in eighth place. Ethan Critchley and Alexander Davidson, 4 tenths off. Alexander Davidson isn't normally 10th place. Leander Gabrielsen is 11th with Tommy Vettel in 12th. Tommy fast there in the 69 car with Harrison Crowther and Aiden Young on row 7. The sole Corvette of the field, Aiden Young is in with Nicholas Gross and Michael Gray, 15th and 16th. You've then got Karel Stoot, the wonderful Belgian driver, with David Baker in 18th position. Philip Schwerker is 19th with Nikolai Orgor in 20th position. Luca Philipp is 21st with Josh Turnbull there in 22nd. Ben Ultra and Dennis Grabowski house row 12. As over to row 13, we will jump to about 25th position where Joe Newman and Phil Samways find themselves. Aidan Carter and Ivan Tonerson is there in 28th with Josh Boot and Andrew Archer making up 30. There's 57 cars out there ready to race today. Jan Dufner is there in 31st position, with Simon Andre Livingston there, the best of the AMs in 32nd. Tristan Engelstad is there in 33rd, with Dan Blackwell 34th. Owen Neve has Gianni Terha in 36th. You then got Jesse Payne-Wilkins and Arthur Thurtle in 38th. Jack Osborne and Eric Hartmann make up the top 40, with Janusz Holten in 41st and Andy Scheel in 42nd. You've then got Adam Watson and Ben Bennyworth there, 43rd and 44th, with Paddy Faulkner and Howard Hassan. Taylor Lane for Misfits Racing will go 47th, with Ben Cullen in 48th. Luca Tingo is there in 49th for Audi Sport Team Neon Lights, with Benjamin Gregory 50th. Jaco von der Lit is 51st, with Jacques Eva, his teammate, there on what is the 26th row of the grid. Paul Smith will then have Nathan Healy for company. A nice purple livery for Paul there for Cracked Racing, with just John Lloyd and Colin Sansom. Then at the back of the field, it looks like Uko Shindeshi is not going to make the start, the Hungarian, then, as they will work their way already over the top of Sito Ponds, and now heading over towards Drysack Corner, what is now known as Danny Pedrosa Corner, the best place to get a move done on this track.
And there's so many great moves to be made here at Jerez. Yeah, I agree. Curve of Danny Pedrosa, one of the best ones here, because you're coming off that curve 5, and it's a long straightaway until you have to really slam on the brakes. And really 56 cars to get this season started. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, the big story, obviously, James Boomey going to Team Falcon this year. So Altitude Freem losing one of the hot shoes in the chamber, per se.
Not just any hot shoe, the hot shoe in the chamber, and with that qualifying effort, about a half a tenth quicker than Michael Evdoka, that tells you all you need to know. It's nice to see the Inex name revived with Jack Sedgwick here for this tournament. He's a driver who is wonderfully quick when he sets his mind to anything out there in the sim racing sphere, and someone who has been legitimately one of, if not the best, to keep in mind out as he looks to set a campaign off. But it is a who's who at the front when Alexander Davidson is 10th on the grid. You know he's got a lot of work to do as they run out then of Palucci Corner. And over to Alex Crevile. They'll be running the motorcycle layout out there over the course of this one today. And because of that, they will now take every single challenge to its seriousness. Ferrari Corner, this next right-hander, and then they will get themselves set 4 championships to fight for: Pro, Pro-Am, Am, and also the Teams Championship. So keep an eye out on which team decides to stand head and shoulders above everyone else. Pace car there, the BMW pace car dives itself down then in onto pit lane as they go through Jorge Lorenzo and look to start off their run. The pace in control of car number 1, James Boumé, and it will be Michael Evdoka who will have to chase one around in the background already as we get ourselves underway. That was from about 12 rows back that we had one finer spin. It's a good clean start into turn number 1. Boumé gets the clearance, Evdoka second, and it's wheel to wheel between Poulsen and Sedgwick there, the teammate of Boumé, having to go around the outside then of Michelin Corner turn 2, and then over through this fast flick left of turn 3, leading over to 4 and Sito Ponds at 5. The clearance is there. Wonderful start.
Yeah, other than that spin at the start, we're so far so good. Everybody kind of finding their way around. And we got one car off, two, three, lots of cars off. That's Jack Osborne, one of the drivers of the Atomic Esports BMW. Dan Blackwell will have to go visit pit road. But already a messy start near the back. But if you take a look at the front, the defending champion, he wears the number 1. He's out front in the point.
Number 1 in P1 and having a very, very good start to this race, and there's some of the WSR cars trying to go through. Now, issues there for Engelstad, who is in trouble. Josh Boot as well for Empire Motorsport there, and you can see what's happened on the back stretch there. It's pretty much a litany of cars that have found troubles, and there's more troubles up near the front because we've got one car in trouble. It's Jack Sedgwick in the barriers then, going through turn number 8 out there on track, Angel Nieto.
Yeah, the Inex Racing number 11 with issues, and of course, going to be interesting to take a look at replay. But what was a great start is quickly turned into a nightmare for several drivers. Granted, this is the first of many races these drivers will have to worry about, but I'll tell you what, you don't want to start off on the back foot here at Jerez.
No, definitely not. Start the season, they do have a drop that they can use. They don't want to be there. Owen Neve, another driver who has the black and orange mechanical flag to come in for damage on the opening lap. Lucas Prado, it's a 45-minute race here, so they'll be setting themselves up accordingly with this run. 2 races to run here tonight, and Lucas Prado, a wonderful driver, running the AMG Mercedes here. It was Dennis Grabowski who went around then through Jorge Lorenzo on the start of this race. We take a look at it here, just trying to light him up. Cold tyres, and the Aston Martin, for a driver of a pro quality standard, he even gets a little hop off over the tyre bundle there that effectively works as an attenuator. That's what you see off the start. Harrison Crowther then also getting into troubles. He slid around. Not a great start for altitude frame cars out there. That is a nightmarish start to this race.
And these are 2 drivers we saw at the front constantly last year, as Agard with that spin over there and that we saw here on our screen. But, just right in the middle of the pack. That's not what you want. So already, that was even harder as Agard. Yeah, we saw why he had the mechanical black flag. He was one of those cars who was involved. One of the Mustangs spinning off. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for Altitude Frame to see if how they're going to come back from losing their defending champion.
Yeah, they can't afford it. This is what happened to Engelstad here, the Swede, and bang, hard into the Armco barrier there, right at the point where the Marshall post comes out, and that is the worst place to hit it. Josh Boot as well, the 996, over the top of Cito Pond. Then in the early progress of this one, the back just steps out and says, no, I don't want to play ball, and the car there just not deciding it wants to work. Jesse Payne-Wilkins over in AM category, also running into those issues as well, and so that then also forms itself with troubles early on. Luca Phillip then as well. There's a lot to try and uncork over the opening 5 minutes in the first lap, with 56 cars that are out there taking the challenge, proving just how tough an opening lap is around here.
And that's not something we normally see here in these World Sim Racing races, to see that much issue in that first lap. But that just goes to speak of how Tyreth is. Phil Samway is also involved in an incident. We'll see what happens here, but you put 56 GT3 drivers, not sure if that was a push or if that was just on his own, but either way, you put 56 of these drivers together on one track, and you're going to see a lot of mayhem. But Boomy already a second in the lead over his one of his rivals from last season, Ev Daka. So already showing, hey, I don't need to be in a Mustang. I don't need to be with the same team. I can dominate with one of my regular teams.
Oh, we got one in the wall, and there we go and see it. That's going to be tough for one of the AMs. Go careful on the rejoin. Ben Altria, who's been promoted up to Pro-Am. Then after a fantastic campaign against Dan McCauley in the AM category last year, he is a driver who can go to top 10. There's another car off there through on the 8 and heading through towards Palucci. Didn't quite catch who that was, but that's 2 off then for troubles. And it's been a very difficult start to racing that we have seen. Then as we take a little look, then there is the likes of Paul Smith making progress then and trying to go through. It's one of the epic cars potentially as there. Josh Boot now with the black and orange mechanical flag. Look at the crossover that comes on back, and then trying to get this moved down to the inside. Now, interestingly enough, AMG Mercedes is proving to be car of choice, the 2020 variant out there, and especially for Ross McFarlane, who's racing in the Adidas Racing by WSR car.
And that's exactly what we've been seeing throughout the season, coming into the season, I should say, is a lot of drivers testing out the Mercedes, whether they were with the regular teams or with new teams. And it seems like for these shorter sprint races and the long enduro, here's a view from Eric Hartman as he gets tagged up against the, that's a hard hit right there. And that was the other car that we saw involved in that incident, Josh Turnbull, one of the drivers involved. But it just goes to show you the shift. Last season, it was the Mustang. This time it's a different kind of V8 that's at the front.
Yeah, I'll correct myself. It was Josh Turnbull who's in that battle. Now, Ultra here had some side-by-side with one of the Venari racing cars. Look, that's just front to rear. And Aspar corner there, going through that long right-hander. You get a lot of this here around this circuit, Jeremy. You get this long, sweeping style corner that's so tough on tyres. And you've got to make sure you're directly there. Josh Boot, I think he was just trying to shoot a gap there that didn't quite exist. He was trying to be clever on the outside, ran himself out of road, and look at how damaged that suspension is. Very lucky he didn't take another one with him.
Our producer's saying it looks like the F1 online room, and yeah, this is very not on par with what we normally see with this series. So I think everybody just trying to get the bugs out after last week's media day. But either way, you know, I keep thinking about, okay, Jerez, it's a motorcycle track, and we see how cars can have great races with motorcycle tracks. And I think everybody's just getting those first race jitters out of the way. So we'll see what happens as we're 38 minutes left to go in this race. And by the way, we still have a pit stop to handle here shortly.
Yep, a full pit stop to worry about, and so they'll be looking around trying to get what they can. Ethan Critchley, is there with Anders Mira, and this is going to be for 6th and 7th position. A change over to RAA for Anders Mira, and the entire team has jumped with him, so to speak, right now. So all the Norwegians practically find themselves in the RAA banner for this season, and he spent a lot of time, did Anders, on his own with the likes then of Tommy Vidal, who was there along with him. But looking at your gainers in the top 10, a couple up 1, a couple up 3, mainly through Jack Sedgwick. William Guthrie still your leader in Pro-Am, but he is currently down 3 from his starting position in 10th, and he's only about 4 places clear of Philip Schwerker, who is his nearest challenger at the moment.
And no surprise that William Guthrie is in the top 10. He would find himself there constantly all of last season, but we'll see if he can work his way higher up through the field. He's got very fast Alexander Davidson that he has to get around first. And Aiden Young, that's a driver to watch out for. I've watched him up and down the service, whether it's here in road racing or in oval track racing. The young American's really good at his craft, so it's great to see that he has finally entered into this series as you're on board with Nicholas Gross as he works his way all around Curve of Michelin and head towards Cito Pond.
Up over the top, Gross now trying to get that Ferrari racing car into 11th place. This would be against the likes of Aiden Young in the only Corvette out there and the only American in the field. Aiden is a fantastic sim racer at his best, and he is looking to try and really throw everything he can at it, working down then into Danny Pedrosa, and then looking to get the clearance off of the exit and get that drive already. We are moving a steadfast number of laps into this race, and already heading towards that 10-minute mark out of 45. You've got to pace yourself in terms of finding that move, and in these track conditions that they've got out there here today, it's a 24-degree track temperature. It's cold, which will be great for them to work with, and they've got no threat of rain here in this race. So that'll be another thing to smile about at this moment. Working hard through Alex Creville and over now towards that final corner out there on track of Jorge Lorenzo. Critchley now looking to apply the pressure here be applied the pressure by Anders Mira, trying to stay in range of Lucas Prada.
Let's see what Mira can do in that BMW. He had his struggles last year, but here's the thing too. You saw the partly cloudy conditions. It's more cloudy than it is partly, so that track's gonna be just cooling off a little bit. That'll help some of the cars out on the track, but either way, Critchley doing his best to hold off Mira in that BMW. Mira's one tough customer as they work their way out of Curve of Michelin and headed towards Cito Pond. I gotta say, now that we've got everything calmed down, this is a little bit more of a typical race that we were able to see here, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, a little bit of gravel being kicked up over the exit of Cito Ponds. The long run down here to Danny Pedrosa corner for those who are fabled with what happened in 1997. This is the corner where Jacques Villeneuve and Michael Schumacher came together, but excluded Michael Schumacher from the championship at the end of the season. Critchley is sat in a nice position in 6th, decent points you'd get for that, but you've also got to keep in mind that the second race of the night forces the touring car style out of a GT3 field because they run with a reverse grid, which is determined by spinning wheel out there for the second race. So if you've got anything to keep in mind, that's going to be huge. The Porsche there of Jesse Payne-Wilkins often can be one of the more slipperier cars out there. Jesse finding out the hard way, nose into the barriers out of Aspar corner.
And you talk about that spinning wheel, you'll see in the chat room how people will go for Calamity and Mayhem and invert the whole field, but sometimes you don't even need the whole field to be inverted for Mayhem to ensue. Sometimes you just need 25, 26 cars. We'll see what happens here at about 33 minutes time. As Anders Mira still knocking at the door of Ethan Critchley. It's Lamborghini over BMW, and that's what's also interesting. Last season, we only saw one Lamborghini in the field. Tonight, I think we have, 3-4 Lambos this time?
We've got a fair number of Lamborghinis. It's got a lot more popular, and it is a great car. It is a fantastically balanced car out there. It has worked wonders, really, for the overall balance of performance, and drivers have gone to a car that's a little bit more seated down to the ground, gives you a little bit more to go and work with at the moment. And you can see Mira having a little twitch there under braking, has got his teammate behind him, Gabrielsen, who is there trying to stay with. Then it's Alexander Davidson, who was just a fraction away from the title last year. He's not been able to make too much progress. I wonder whether he's a little bit out of touch at the moment down there in 9th place, and maybe not having as much love with the AMG Mercedes, the 2020 variant of it, than he did with the Ford Mustang a season ago.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see Davidson, who was constantly at the front battling Boomy for the lead, tooth and nail all season long, to be so far back in the top 10. And after the shakedown, William Guthrie, who stayed in the Mustang this year. So that'll be interesting to see how this plays out throughout this stint. But Aiden Young, I'll tell you what, he's really knocking at the door of that top 10, trying to make it an all-pro top 10, as he's right in the slipstream of Guthrie in the Pro-Am Mustang. Too far away to make anything happen, but I think give it a couple laps and you're going to see Aiden Young make that pass for 10th.
He'll want it. He would absolutely want it over William Guthrie, and they are all going to sing from the same hymn sheet, quote unquote. So they're going to need to get these moves to get these points. And of course, William Guthrie will be looking at it. Well, how many cars can I put in between myself and Philip Schwerker at the moment? It's 3, and he will take a big haul out of what he's doing if he gets himself those 3 places. He represents Northern Ireland in Sim out there, and William Guthrie, the Pro-Am champion from last season, will look to be going back to back on that pace and saying, I can go there again. Being inside that top 10, he was constantly at the back end of last season, knocking on the top 10, if not some top 5s.
Yeah, and of course, that coined the hashtag Guthrie for Pro. Let's take a look at the GT driver chat. We're starting to go. Of course, it's Aiden Carter being the instigator. Shocking there, the only driver who was in the Lambo last season. Not a Lambo this season, which they could have done quite well, I think, having multiple of the same manufacturers to work with instead of being out there in a boat with ore. But I'll say this, Davidson, Guthrie, and Young, a little bit of dust kicked up, but also got this wonderful paddle near the back of the top 10. There's Schwerka trying to look every which way but sideways to try and improve upon that 14th.
Yeah, that is the Belgian in front of Karel Stoot, who is going to be holding off. Nicolas Grosch is then in front of that, making this one a Belgian sandwich with German bread at the moment. Working hard into Expo 92, which is when the circuit had a lot of help with the fantastic expo that came around at this place. That's why you got this wonderful section over the top of the circuit, very unique there, which is at turn number 1. You can actually have weddings over at that section. I know that many a person has done here at Jerez. Over the top of Cito Pons, group in the middle, holding themselves steady, but you're now getting into the middle of this race right now because you've gone through 15 minutes worth of running. You're now looking at what you do for the next 15 to set yourself up for the final 10.
And that's going to be key here, because I think the final 10, you thought the first 5 minutes were mayhem. I think we're going to be even tighter when it comes to this. And of course, also, you got to stop and figure you've got another race to worry about. Granted, you're not going to be using the same equipment, but either way, technically you are, but not in the game. But still, this tight battle looking pretty good. It's tough to pass here. You don't want to suggest where somebody else needs to get out of your way, but I wonder if we're going to start to see that later on. It looks like Aiden Young just a little bit closer to William Guthrie for that 10th spot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because remember, your points are based on where you finished overall in the race.
Yeah, and finding enough points over the course of this season could be critical for the way that this one all works out for you. At the moment, you don't know whether you're going to need this result or not, and especially when you've got some of these reverses, they're going to be careful. Now, scoring points as well, it's not just about how good you are out there on track or how quick you are. As here comes the search at Michelin corner. Wasn't going to be a wait for long for Aiden Young. He's going to have to fight off the exit, and look at that. Brute force in the Mustang by William Guthrie. He is not going to give Aiden Young the time of day there on the exit of Michelin and over to turn number 3. He covers off his line. Aiden, you're going to have to get a little bit more elbows out if you want that move. And so you see the differences that's going to be there. I was going to just talk about it. You're going to have to be clean in your passing to go and make the circuit work for you and the points work for you, because if you pick up too many instant points, you start getting docked points out there, and you don't want to start being in the tank on your championship points, scoring as many as about 15th if you finish 10th, because your points don't quite work out.
I was going to say, this battle feels like a man from Kentucky and a man from Michigan both walked into a bar and they told each other that both of their states were ugly. So it's going to be an interesting battle for 10th place between Guthrie and Young. Young's kind of fallen back just a little bit, thinking discretion's a better part of valor, but that's given Davidson a chance to close in on Gabrielson for that 8th place. That's about 1 to 2 car lengths for that 8th place between the 7th and 55, as you've got the battle for 8th right there, the Lambo versus the Merc, and the Mustang over the Corvette.
So, how is this going to set itself up as far as this second half of the race will soon be looking? Gabrielson will now be putting himself further in towards the clutches of Alexander Davidson, who needs to move up for a good start in this season. It's been calm at the front. 2 seconds for James Boumet at the moment over Michael Evdoka and Nikolai Poulsen. So Nikolai there in 3rd position, making it a Falcon 1-3, which is absolutely huge. Now, all troubles then and in the pits early. Sorry, not necessarily troubles, but a first stop, for Simon Andre Livingston, who was the leader in AM, coming down into the pits. So that is a bold decision this early on. 14 seconds is the stop time.
I'm kind of surprised that it's such an early pit stop, but we'll see if Livingston has something else in the back pocket, maybe an undercut strategy that may play out. We'll see what happens here in the next couple of laps. I'll tell you what, though, you're seeing Young closing in once again on Guthrie for that 10th spot. It's about 1 to 2 car lengths around the circuit once again. It's going to be interesting to see. Honestly, though, could we see one of these two pit early to get away from traffic? Again, I still think it's too early for any sort of pit stop for strategy.
Yeah, I think it's a case of drivers will be looking around and saying, this is what I need out of the car, and I wouldn't sit down and say that this is going to be the easiest race in the world to figure out what you need or what you don't need. Easy on the brakes, on camber through the final corner there of Jorge Lorenzo. There are some great moves that have gone back in their time, like Valentino Rossi on Sete Gibernau, for example, in 2005. What a move that was in the final corner. Denis Grabowski looking like he's falling down the order a little bit as he falls back to 32nd at the moment in time. But for the moment, Guthrie holding his 10th place and holding it strongly at the moment. He's got that little latch point in front of Davidson. It won't give much, but it'll give enough in terms of slipstream. That will stem some of the bleeding along the straights.
That's all you can ask for at this point. Grabowski goes into the pits for his compulsory pit stop. And what's nice is you can use this race to figure out if something's going to work for next race, because you could say, okay, well, this pit stop didn't work then, I'm going to have to go a little bit longer and try and strategize. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens here, especially when you got fast drivers coming through the back of the pack. And of course, some of our normal fast drivers, I think, are probably hoping for a big invert, as you're still watching Gabrielson closing, trying to hold off Davidson, and now that 2-car battle for 8th, Jake, has turned into a 4-car battle as Guthrie and Young have entered into the conversation.
They have, and this is what happens when you can't quite find a move that you're able to secure. As Aiden Carter in trouble now with a black and orange mechanical flag. That's going to really hurt his day as he looks to go through. We'll take another look. This is going through 2 and 3, and Gabrielson now diving into the pits by the looks of things, just looping it there as Jack Osborne into the wall. Now, there's a car already off in front, which I think was Aiden Carter, and that would have been the spook So really tough to deal with. You don't often see them spin out of turn 3. It's not what we call a normal place to see it go wrong. But there was one Lamborghini over the straight across the road. Aiden Carter just spearing into it.
Yeah, that's not a place, and that's actually, yeah, Healy, that's a rare mistake coming out of turn 3 as, Watch just gets on the gas too early and nowhere to go, tries to hold the brakes. Oh, would have been better just holding the brakes just a little bit sooner, but Healy, unfortunately, with a lot of damage. While we were watching that, we saw Aiden Young take his way into the top 10. Ethan Critchley, though, doing a great job of keeping Anders Mira behind him.
Yeah, so Ethan Critchley has been holding his station very nicely at this point. He knows that as well they are trying to catch Prada. Now this is Paul Smith this time, whose AMG Mercedes in the pink and purple finds itself there just booping against the wall. I think's the professional term for what happened there. It wasn't that much of a big hit for Paul. It did dislodge a little bit there of the front bumper, so there'll be a bit of concern there in terms of whether that's still going to hold its weight. But Mira doing well, and Mira sticking with the same car that he ran last season, the BMW M4. Now that's a car that hasn't really got much love, but a lot of the Norwegian contingent have gone to the M4.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Mira stayed with the car. I know near the second half of the season, he was talking about how he's thinking about making the switch over. He never really did, so it's very interesting to see him stick with it, as now Critchley and Mira closing in on Prada, who is in that fifth spot. So you've got Mercedes, Lamborghini, and BMW 5th, 6th, and 7th as they're working their way through the twisty bits, but we'll see what Mira can do here, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he makes the switch mid-season to the M4.
Yeah, we'll see whether the switches go along and if they use that one-card switch that they have, because this is a long championship that runs through an iRacing build, and so they give that option. If you think the car's going to be better, you can jump over, you can go and make the switch necessary, trying to go and make that move, and still Anders Mira has just been staring at the back of that Lamborghini Huracan Evo and not finding any way of making that move happen. It's been tough, and it's just been all about how you deal with it. Gabrielsen 8th, Davidson 9th, Young in 10th. As it stands, top 5 pretty evenly spaced, about 2 seconds between each of them at this moment in time, and it's almost a 3-minute stop there for the Irishman Nathan Healy, who looks to try and get going. That's a good run from Anders Mira here through Alex Creville. They're not running the Ayrton Senna chicane, the right, left, right that runs on through, but it's a very tough run out there, and we'll be seeing a lot to go through and a lot of drivers looking to prove what they've got, including Dan McCauley, who is missing out the first rounds of the season, but will hope to be back for more running later on as it goes. It's about 0.2 of a second as they go underneath the UFO, I like to call it, in towards Expo 92, but the big chance is get the run out of Expo 92, and Michelin's a wonderful throw down the inside if you've got it.
UFO, I like that one. I never thought of it like that, but I'll tell you what, Mira, I think he's just getting tired of being in the tire tracks of Critchley. You saw how close that he got through Sector 3, and he's closing in once again. He'll have that opportunity to make that pass into Pedrosa here shortly as they work their way through Cito Pond, and there it goes into the long back straightaway, down through. Let's see what Mira does, and he tries a little bit of a defensive move over Critchley, but Mira, he was close enough, and I thought that he was going to try and make the move. Josh Boot back into the pits. I wonder if it's a regular pit stop or if it's because of damage, because poor Josh Boot, he's had nothing but issues all race long. But Critchley using that Lamborghini, a little bit of a wiggle there out of the number 97. But either way, Mira, he's good here through this back straightaway, good through Sector 3. It's just the other two he's having issues with.
I would say with an 8.2 second stop that was scheduled by comparison as drivers look to try and recover their way through. For example, Jack Sedgwick up to 35th position at the moment, and Paul Smith down in the pits taking a stop. Again, Critchley is just covering off every move right now. There's no real throw down the inside and say, this is where it's all going to happen now. This was Tommy Vidal here, who was trying to work through turn one, just gets a little too close to the car in front, boop on the nose, and then the front just loses all the grip, and round you go. This is Josh Boot coming out of the pits then in the Porsche. Now, the Porsche is a slippery car. It's best used at circuits like Daytona. The back just switched around, and as you'd like to say there, the back wanted to see what the front end was doing.
Yeah, Boots having a season debut to forget, so hopefully he can gather it all up and have a solid race number two. Gabrielson has opened up a little bit bigger gap between he and Davidson, so that's some good news for him. The bad news is he's lost sight of Anders Mir about 2 seconds up ahead as you see him going around Paul Smith there to put him fully a lap down, headed into Pedrosa. But, you know, so far, the new drivers that we've seen up at the front, Peterson, Gabrielson, Young, they've all done quite well so far. And I think that we are starting to get into the start of that pit window for the front runner. So we'll see who comes in here in the next couple of laps.
Everyone will look at their tank and they'd much rather have it empty, run with as light of a car as possible for as long as possible in racing like this. It's a single track pit lane entry as well, and it's such a tight hairpin to get correct. It's so easy to overcook your mark as you hit the brakes, and then when you do, you could be out in the grass with a world of trouble to go and deal with. It would be the last thing anybody wants to be navigating through at this stage of the race. It is now as well for some of those AMs, lap traffic season, likes of Paul Smith there, getting out of the way on the right-hand side, being very diligent to allow everyone through. Mira still on the follow, still trying to find something there. Gabrielson now looking to be defensive because Alexander Davidson and Aiden Young, they've certainly caught up to the group. We've also got drivers like Jan Dufner, who is down into pit lane right now. The pro in the number 18 making a stop right now in his AMG Mercedes.
So Dufner dive into the pits, and Davidson trying to do all he can to get up there. By the way, quietly working his way through the field. We mentioned it, Ross McFarlane up to fourth, so great to see him up there. But either way, it's still all Boomy all the time up at the front. This battle for position really heating up, so that's also fun to watch. Is now we're back to the four-car battle for position near the back half of the top 10, and it's going to be only a matter of time before Gabrielson, Davidson, and Young all decide that they want to answer the call into the pits.
Well, right now, it's a case of, are you going to jump up that one position or not? That's what you're trying to eye up at this stage, with McFarlane in fourth. They're only about 6 seconds off of fourth place as it stands. James Boumet has done a brilliant job of holding his ground, saying, I am going to be the one steady constant in this race. And they see him at the front of the field. Not really any worry or concern to go and deal with here with Michael Evdoka. Evdoka's been very happy at keeping the pace up. He would have had a turbulent season last time out in 2025 with Michael Evdoka. And Jeremy, what do you think the difference has been? Do you think it's just the fact he's found those couple tenths that's got him out of the mid-drift?
Yeah, I think he's found those couple tenths, which is, no surprise to see him look for those couple tenths and just find him. He's just, so good. And we've seen him in the Mercedes in some of these special events that we have across the iRacing platform. And he's really taken this Mercedes in anger as one of the lap cars is going to go high, wide, and handsome. Let our leader go by, but really there's no surprise. Since winning the championship last year, Boumet's been really on top of his game, and it doesn't matter what you see him in, he's usually at the front. Yeah,
he is lightning fast. That's hence why he's made that move. Andy Scheel has made his stop as well in the 007, so Spy Machine is there trying to get back out and going once more. 15 minutes left in this opening race of the season, and now you look a little bit further back into the group. William Guthrie has held his nerve actually in 11th place. He's not let this group go, and so he'll be looking at it going, yeah, this has been a really good job. It's not Philip Schwerker who's his nearest challenger anymore. It's now Michael Gray, the Pro-Am, who's only 2 spots behind. So the 273 of Gray's been big. Now we're getting big takers into the lane with about 15 minutes to go. Guthrie almost rear-ending Aiden Young, having to hit the brakes, but in has come Evdoka, McFarlane, Prada is in, Critchley in, Young in. most of the WSR drivers are in right now.
And that's no surprise to see the WSR drivers into the pits. And one thing I was thinking about, too, this pit lane entry kind of reminds me of a more wider Adelaide. At least there's no wall there, so should you mess it up, you'll just end up on the track. As we see a couple of the WSR drivers ending out of the pits. McFarland with a 14.1, Prada 12.8. As you see, Young is out, Turnbull's out, Schwark is out, so everybody kind of making the mad dash out of pit road.
Yeah, and there was a think about, could I go side by side without the unsafe pit entry? Guthrie just ahead there of the Venari racing car there that was just behind of Nicholas Gross, who was trying to take the place away. Turnbull, Sharks Eva and Nikolai Orgor is also down there in the pits too. They're getting their service done at this moment. I'd expect Boomy and Pulisic to come down in and make their stops. Anders Mira and Leander Gabrielsen as well. Alexander Davidson also stayed out, and good running as well on fuel for Ivan Turnerson there, who has done a great job. In comes your race leader then. He'll be unchallenged into the pit lane, and he hits his marks perfectly. James Boomy. Now Boomy making his stop, and now will be looking for his box, which, no surprises, car 1 in P1. You got to go all the way down the end of the lane.
Yeah, but that means a great exit out of pit road. So Boumet gets into the pits, sets himself up for a nice dash all the way almost to the safety car. And the car comes down on the stops, and it will get service as we speak. Peterson, Mira, Davidson, Gabrielsen, and Tonneson onto the pit road. And Boumet's out. Wow, 10.2, but you're so close to the finish, you don't really need to take a long pit stop.
No, exactly. The shorter, the longer that you go, the less fuel you need in the car, and so that will certainly help you in terms of time, because you've only got to go 12 minutes as well. There's not as much of a worry about what the tyres do. Ross McFarlane back out and away in 4th position, or he's now returned to 4th position with those who have pitted. Mira returns in 5th, and what work by Anders Mira there. Overcut working then to his advantage. He's clear now of Lucas Prada, and that is a huge jump for Anders, who was stuck behind Ethan Critchley. He needed that on a stop, and that has really helped promote him up the order. Alexander Davidson to 8th, Gabrielsen to 9th, and they'll also be happy that they've done well. Oh, kick a tail over Cito Pons.
Absolutely fantastic pit stop out of Mira. Now he sets his sights on McFarlane, something we really didn't say too much of last season, as Healy gets a spin coming off of Jorge Lorenzo. Little slight tap of the wall, just a kiss, and he'll be back underway. That's another driver that kind of wishing for a, ends up in the apple trap, wishing for a better finish of race number 1 of 2 of the night. But either way, in spite of the early race mayhem so far, it's been a really great race for some of these drivers.
It's been very solid, and while there have been moments where cars have been biffed and bashed about a little bit, I'd say the racing standard has been very high. Once they settled themselves down after the opening 5 minutes, they've got themselves into a rhythm. They've done a great job, and Prada here, the Czechian driver from Czechia, is now looking to try and get to the top 5 once again. They'll clear the traffic there on the right-hand side as they run along the main straight. Uphill climb up into Expo 92, so you can brake later than you think you can into this corner and go well. Engelstad then will make the pit stop too from 50th position, so Tristel Engelstad will stop and make that happen. But now it is all about what can you do late. With 10 minutes to go, you're eyeing up 2 things. Am I happy with where I am? Can I get one more? We look here at split screen because you've got Tommy Vidal here in 20th position. He's eyeing up a way to jump a little bit higher. One of the pro-ams there is at the moment, and just in front of him would be David Baker and Jan Dufner, who are both their pro drivers in front of Tommy at this moment in time.
No surprise to see Tommy do so well sitting there in 20th, and see if he can make his way up through the field. But Baker and Duffner doing quite a great job trying to hold him off through approaching Danny Petrosa. Cedric not too far away either, so he's got to keep his eye out for the pro driver back there. That was a little close, but either way, now comes the time where you got to settle with how are you going to get up towards the front, as you mentioned. And of course, you really can't rely on the invert, because we don't even know who's going to get inverted in how many cars.
Well, here's the thing, it could be as low as 15, it could be as large as the entire grid, and that's the scare that you have. You might only have to pass a handful of cars to get up to the top. You might have to pass an entire field and have the scariest style of racing you possibly can. That's what you're trying to navigate through at the moment. Nicholas Gross ahead of Michael Gray then. Gray's desperate to get through because that'd only put him one place behind William Guthrie, for example. McFarlane is the one who's having to hold that here as we take a little look here. Jack Osborne and co here. So Osborne was slowing down on the right-hand side, was letting drivers through, and I wonder whether that it's going to be a long lift to allow everybody to jump on by. It is, and so that's very, very good lap traffic etiquette.
It really is, especially with how tight that 1-2-3 complex is. Let the faster traffic go by and let everybody else. You saw that flash out of Mira. Not sure if that was for the lap car, if that was for McFarlane or both. Let's see what happened to Michael Gray here. Oh, a little bit of argy-bargy there into the gravel trap. But either way, Gray able to keep hold of that position. Ooh, that wasn't a little frowned upon, but either way, McFarlane doing his best to hold off Mira once again for position. Again, it's just weird to see McFarlane in something other than a Mustang this season.
Yeah, it was a good fight there with Carol Stote, and Stote was very much able to keep himself near in that battle, but just not enough to go to the next level and say, I can hold on to that place. So a lot to try and uncork with that, but it just wasn't quite enough to get it there. Ross McFarlane, who spent a lot of the last season in comparison to Alexander Davidson playing deputy, but today he looks like he is one of the best of the Adidas by WSR cars out there in the 127. He is proving that he's got a lot to go and focus with, and he wants to be a bigger threat to the championship. 12.4 off of the pace of Boume at the moment, and this is a specialised circuit where some drivers just love this place more than others. It is one of those tracks where you do get them where one driver can be 2 or 3 tenths faster than somebody else just because they have the understanding of the line, and all these long corners where a normal corner you'd lose a tenth, all these long corners like Cito Ponds and Aspar Corner, for example, and Alex Creville, you can lose an extra tenth with just a mile or two an hour being slower.
That sometimes all it takes, a little bit of testing here and there, and try to find out what corner works best for you and your driving style, and that's what it all goes down to. We'll go back to the traditional tracks later on in the season, but either way, I think having Jerez as the first race of the season, it's pretty mayhem to say the least. Eric Hartman into the pits from the number 3 in the AM category, but let's see what William Guthrie is chasing down Aiden Young once again, and that's what we're talking about. You see how some drivers just are so good coming out of the throttle as Guthrie tried to get back into that top 10 and garner top 10 points for the Pro-Am Championship.
Yeah, so trying to find those points are critical because you don't know where you're going to need that advantage. You don't know how many top 10s you're going to end up with at the end of the season. William Guthrie is going to definitely want to find as many as he can in his pool of work at this stage. So that's what he's got his sights set on at the moment. William knows what he's capable of. He knows how to race in this series. Just keep yourself calm and do what you need to. We've also got a battle on here with, I think, for the AM lead between Gianni Tejar and Simon Andre Livingston. Then they're going at it at the moment right next to each other. So AM category right now is going to be hard fought for between 2 debutants here, the Norwegian and the Dutchman.
So battles up and down the field so far, and here's what's going to be interesting. This McFarlane-Mira battle is going to be wrapped up in this lap down battle. We'll see how these two, the Mercedes and the Lambo ahead of them, will fare on, but I think Mira's probably licking his chops because he knows if McFarlane can get wrapped up in this battle, it's going to be game on for the BMW driver.
Oh, it absolutely will do, and just getting the clearance. You need the drive off of Paluki, and it's not quite there, so you're going to have to force a way to the inside through Alex Creville, and will manage that. So Anders Mira then really needing that one to be uncorked, and he now knows that he's just got to follow in tow and keep everything he can on this power run. He knows with 4.5 minutes to go, These are the must-make positions. He's done well to get to the top 5. I wonder at this stage, with a gap of 0.6 of a second, whether he can just eat to it. Oh, Paul's in trouble with a black flag. That might be instant limit.
And that's a shame because Paul really was hoping for a good finish for our buddy over there, Paul Smith, and he'll have to do a pass through the pits. But either way, still a great battle here. Let's see what happened to Paul Smith in P46. Not sure if this is a replay or just showing him on track. Still, lots to play for here in this early part of the race. And yeah, that AM battle really keeps getting tighter and tighter every time we see it on the tower.
We do, and it means that everyone is getting set, because those AM points, I think, as a championship, as we see it right now on screen, this is Seaman Andre Livingston, and just behind him, trying to work away to jump up into that place and get the next one up, is Gianni Teha, who is trying to just keep this one close. So that you're talking about a field that I would argue week to week AM is often the most volatile.
It really is, because you take a look at last season, how many times do we see a different driver up at the front? It doesn't matter, because you have some of these drivers who are newer to the series, but they're a little bit lower in I rating, and of course, obviously, the I rating is how you're grouped into Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. But Nathan Healy with the black flag, he's already had a rough day and just keeps getting rougher. Hopefully race 2 will be a little bit better. But Livingston doing all he can to keep the Porsche behind him. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the next lap 2, I believe they'll have 2 laps to go. 1 to go at the line, though.
Yeah, so they'll be looking around at James Boumé, who will say, look, you've got 2 laps left to get it sorted. The black flag served them by Paul Smith, and those would have been for going over the top. There's your leader, 4.2 seconds down the road. He took one look at Michael F. Docker and the 989 in the mirror at turn 1 of this race here in the Andalusia region, and he just said, nope, I am going to be first to get myself a very nice drink at the end of this race. You are not going to catch me.
Yeah, it's Boumé's world. We're all just living in it. And yep, that probably is what set Nathan Healy back into the pits, is just another contact coming off of Jorge Lorenzo. And just a rough night to start off the season for the 187.
Looks like Samways is getting involved here with Nicholas Gross, and this would be important to move up to the 12th here. Then in terms of this move, I might need to correct myself there in terms of it's Michael Gray, sorry, who is there, and in that scrap of the 273, trying to work himself through. Teammate, of course, to Samways, as Gross gets a massive wiggle, trying to work hard into Angel Nieto corner. Now through Palucci, you can see the traditional stands there on the far side that's baked into the hill. Brilliant stuff then for a viewing experience around this Jerez circuit. Out then through Ferrari and over towards the left-hander of Lorenzo. They've got to be careful about the traffic in front, which will need to pull itself out of the way, but for the moment, this is well held at the moment. Traffic dives over to the right-hand side to avoid, but for the moment, the Venari racing car of Gross has got the clearance.
It's not been a gross race for Gross, because he's done quite well holding station in 12th place, but Michael Gray wants to get around. Here comes Stout to the inside. Oh, I thought we were going to see some sort of carnage there in Michelin, but thinks better of it. The Altitude Freem Esports Pure Sims Porsche loses a little bit of ground, but still a little bit of time left to make that up, as you see Boumé coming around for the final lap of this race.
They run to time. He's 25 seconds away from the timer expiring, as Howard Hassan gets a late black flag, which he'll have to add on at the end of this race. A little bit of traffic in front then for James Boumé to deal with. That's Ben Cullen, the AM, who is there in front of him. But with 10 seconds, I think Barney's unfurling the flag on what has been a magnificent run of racing here. He has just checked out from everybody else. Timer hits 0, and the checkered flag unfurls for James Boumé. The reigning champ is brilliant here in Jerez. That is truly a wonderful lights to flag drive, and he sets down the gauntlet to everyone else. I'm not just the yardstick. You got to come and beat me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out, but already Bume showing that he is the class of the field. Coming down the pit straight, William Guthrie takes the Pro-Am win, and another driver who I think is going to be hard to beat when it comes to this series. And you're going to hear more and more calls of Guthrie to Pro for next season.
Yeah, you certainly will, and this has been a stronghold by Seaman Andre Livingston, who took the early run through Dennis Grabowski with a late black flag, but that is the AM victory then for the Norwegian, who just keeps it away then in terms of that from Gianni Terher, and that was a very brilliant run then to go through. So for Terher, that was as much as he could do in that Porsche, but couldn't find a way to jump with the Mustang. Let's get the results then here from round one of the World GT Championship here, which is put together by the World Sim Racing crew. James Bume, though, starts as he means to go on. A win in 45 minutes and 8 seconds here today at Jerez proves that he is top dog, and he will be very tough to go and beat. Michael Evdoka would end up as the driver who would finish off in second, with Nikolai Poulsen then in the 242 in third place. It would be Ross McFarlane in fourth, ahead of Anders Mira fifth, with Lucas Prada and Ethan Critchley sixth and seventh. Alexander Davidson would finish off in eighth, with Leander Gabrielsen ninth, and Aidan Young rounding out your top 10. James Bume as well with the fastest lap of 135.3. William Guthrie would win your AM category out there, with Nicholas Gross and Michael Gray. Carol Stout would there be in 14th, so Stokes did a great job. Schwerker would be 15th for Venari. 3 Venari cars in top 16 with Luca Philipp, the Swiss driver there. Ivan Turnison would be 17th with Jan Duffner, David Baker, and Jack Sedgwick. Great recovery from him after what happened to him to get up into the top 20. You look down the field, you see names like Adam Watson struggling a bit, Arthur Thurtle there in the middle, Seaman Andre Livingston holding on against Gianni Terher there for Quad Dash Racing in the AM battle, with Ben Ultra, Andrew Archer, and Andy Scheel all inside the top 30. The likes of Luca Tingor then would be 32nd, with Ben Bennyworth there in 35th, doing a great job for Corsa Mass Motorsport. What a fantastic team they have always been for racing. Drivers like Jacques Eva, Benjamin Gregory, and John Lloyd all inside of the top 40 as well. Last car on the lead lap would be Ben Cullen, just behind of Owen Neve. Howard Hassan would be the first one a lap down. Drivers like Jaco van der Lit a lap down, with Paul Smith and Jack Osborne. Tristan Engelstad 1 lap down in 50th place. And then also looking through, you got Nikolai Orgor there, Josh Boo, Eric Hartman, Nathan Healy 4 laps down in the end, with Aidan Carter, a retiree, along with Jesse Payne Wilkins, making 56 different drivers then in this season opener. But let's talk about what will be coming up next, because the grid does indeed reverse, and we'll see what that reverse is going to land in on this first spin, and how much of a drama are we going to get. Well, they'll be happy that they've got a fairly low number by comparison, because it will be position 22 that will be the reverse, which will mean Arthur Thurtle will be on the pole for racing action in round 2 of the championship, which will follow immediately after the close of this. So brilliant work there, Jeremy, and I think a good strong reverse to start things off for the season.
Oh, totally agree. I thought for a second that we were going to see a full field, and it's like, geez, we already saw mayhem in race 1. What can we see in race 2? But I think 22 is a good, solid number, and Arthur Thurtle at the front. We saw him at the front a couple times last season. He's pretty good there. We'll see how long that lasts.
We certainly will, and we'll see it with round 2 on the other side of this. Stay with us on RaceSpotTV, because your World GT Championship is just getting started.
What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Baker and Jan Dufner is in 5th position, with Ivan Turnesen then in 6th position overall. Vinari have row 4 with Luca Philipp and Philip Schwerker in 8th place, as Carol Stout is in 9th, and Michael Gray will round out the top 10. Niklas Gross and William Guthrie, the winner of AM then in the season opener, is there in 12th. Aidan Young and Leander Gabrielsen 13th and 14th, with Alexander Davidson and Ethan Critchley on row 8. Lucas Prada and Andres Mira is there in 18th, with the top 20 rounded out by Ross McFarlane and Nikolai Poulsen. They're making up the top 20. Michael Evdoka and James Boumet, then your winner from the opener, the reigning champion 22nd. On the bubble was Joe Newman in 23rd, with Josh Turnbull in 24th in the Mr. Hedge car. Then you got Adam Watson and Simon Andre Livingston in 26th, with Gianni Teha there in 27th position. The AM battle from the opening race. Andy Archer there for Atomic, with Ben Ultria and Andy Scheel making up the top 30. Luca Tingor and Harrison Crowther are on row 16, with Janusz Hultin and also Ben Bennyworth in 34th. Phil Samways and Jacques Eva are on row 18, with Benjamin Gregory and John Lloyd, and following that, Owen Neve and Dennis Grabowski starting from 40th. Ben Cullen and Dan Blackwell on row 21, with Paddy Faulkner and Jaco von der Lit then in 44th. Paul Smith and Howard Hassan back there in row 23, with Jack Osborne and Colin Sampson. And then the top 50 is brought together by Tristan Engelstad and Nikolai Orgor there in the RAA SimSport 1 car. Josh Boot and Eric Hartman 51st and 52nd, with Nathan Healy and Aidan Carter then in 54th position. And that will be 2 we are missing from race 1 into race 2, so it might be a slightly easier time for us here in the commentary box than on some of the PC specs that this circuit does tend to bring up. So they're getting themselves ready on their formation lap to go and have a red hot go. It's another 45 minutes on the clock, so same time as before. That's going to be interesting, because you don't necessarily have much time out there to begin with in 45 minutes. Sounds like not very much, but you consider GT3, anything under an hour is typically classified as a sprint.
It really is, and there's a handful of races we don't do sprint races, and those are the full time, or we do enduros, 90-minute enduros. Kind of weird, but either way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. How long it's going to take some of our drivers who are at the back half of that invert to come up near the front. You know, it's only going to be a matter of time before we see the likes of Boumet and Evdoka up in the front. And heck, this gives McFarlane and Mira a chance to make a battle. But I've got to say this, Arthur Thurtle, we've seen him defend quite well here at the start. The altitude frame driver, going to be interesting to see how long he can stay at the front with Tommy Vettel and Jack Sedgwick. Remember, Sedgwick started up front in last race, but ran into problems in lap 1.
Sedgwick started from exactly the same position, P3. He's hoping that's not an omen here for this one, as they now look to try and line up. Pace car has dived down into the pits. Pace in control of Arthur Thurtle in the number 70. The 69 alongside him as he waits for that launch. He will try and coordinate it with Jan Dufner, who's there in 5th. There goes the jump, and the green flag out in the air. Race 2 here in the World GT Championship starts, and a lovely bit of clearance then as they work themselves up into turn number 1. Baker and Dufner there, and a big chuck up the inside. Then as they go back there with Stoke, for example, Phillips the one who has to shuffle 3 Venari cars side by side, and then you've got to try and figure out where's from another wiggle from Luca Philipp, who's being pushed from pillar to post. I think it's Schwerker in the middle who finds himself in trouble as they work through on the outside. Aidan Young.
Not a good start for the young American as he's going to fall through the field. More cars involved. 2, 3, 4 cars. Contact there coming off of turn number 4. So the mayhem that we saw early on has gotten even worse.
That's a massive accident there in the back. Dennis Grabowski's caught up in it. Lunged down to the inside then from Stout's Porsche, who will get by David Baker. And then on the outside of Baker is Niklas Gross, who jumps up and gets a really good launch. Sedgwick still in 3rd though through the opening lap. I think he takes caution here on this one. Alexander Davidson, good, there's a car around. Lucas Prada's in the gravel now in the background there of Aspar corner turn 8. So another car that finds out how difficult it is in the early start. You bring these drivers closer together, you get this accordion effect, and everyone just tripping over everybody else here in the mid-pack.
Yeah, the Avidus driver who had such a great race early on now has to climb his way up through the field. But once again, Arthur Thurtle, your leader, Tommy Vettel, doing his best to keep Cedric behind him. And so far, so good. He got a little bit of a gap to Duffner.
Yeah, there's a huge accident that's just gone on with the likes of Michael Evdoka. There's a lot to take over on this start. Trying to avoid the accident there is not going to work. It's Evdoka and Josh Turnbull who have come together and have created an almighty incident in the middle. Crota just avoided it. Tingor as well was able to go through. But everywhere you look in the opening laps is trouble. Look at this across the circuit. Bang! Not what Evdoka needs. He's someone who struggled to keep himself out of trouble in races like these, and you need to keep out of trouble to have a championship like this.
Of course, you think, 22 cars, what can happen? It doesn't matter. When it comes to these inverts, there's going to be a level of mayhem, and we've seen it with two very big crashes taking out some very fast drivers. Yanni Terhar, one of those drivers who's into the pits. You saw how the AM battle there was really shaped up. Here's the look of Evdoka's issues as he just comes around the corner once again, and it's just the accordion effect. You're going to have that at the start, and I'm kind of surprised that we're seeing so much out of some of these very talented drivers.
Well, Evdoka sees Turnbull down to the inside for Alex Creville. Then they fight for the apex there at Ferrari. I think that initial nudge there from Turnbull created the ping pong and the chain reaction that sorts itself through. So the 989 would have been very, very happy with the work there that went through Phil Samways. Also going around on the opening lap there, the backstepping out on that AMG Mercedes, no good. Then in that one as it went through, Gianni Terhar, who was right up there fighting as AM leader in the race number one. He was second overall. He has a massive slide through, and he elects instead that I've got too much damage, I'll take a quick tow, and hopefully that will keep me back in. Duffner then in a good scrap. Bit of argy-bargy behind with Critchley and Guthrie going at it together against each other, but for the moment, Duffner in fourth position and at risk here of being dropped by Cedric Vidal and Thurtle. They've pretty much checked out those front three. It's a case of getting a wiggle on here, you lads.
Which is very smart by those three. Get out there, get that gap, make some of the fast drivers really work to get up through the field. As now you're watching Ross McFarlane in 14th. He's got William Guthrie all over him, and they're side by side going into Pedrosa. That's 3 wide for position back there as well. Now they're back to side by side. So everything just a little bit tense here as we start this race. Peterson and Gabrielsen also involved in this very tight battle for position.
Nikolai Pulisic, great. James Boumet diving to the inside of Aspar corner, and Gabrielsen then looking for the drive off the exit. He's going to get the inside for the next 2 corners of Angel Nieto, named after the bike rider, gets it covered off, and Boumet has to sit himself down and rework the attack. Won't get anything out of Palucci, and the run over to Jorge Lorenzo corner will be where the next great chance will be for Boumet, who sat very nicely here in this one and goes uber aggressive down to the inside. He normally races with the window half ajar just to keep himself cool. Well, he was iced there with that pass, not fussed with the fact he couldn't get it done the first time, waited for the next available chance and cut his way through Gabrielsen without too much trouble.
Fantastic stuff out of your defending series champion, as he's got Gabrielsen all on the back, and once again finds himself behind William Guthrie. What a story that we would see here in the second races of the night, where Boumet would have to work his way through the field. He's doing quite well once again, this time with the Falcon Mercedes. Used to be the altitude-free Mustang that we would see him work his way through, but still, there's a reason why he garnered that number 1. Is because, a little bit of a wiggle there off the back there, but still, he would work. He's just that good working his way through traffic.
Yeah, little move there, goes through for Anders Mira, so it's a case of multi-20 there, Leander, as there goes the movement through for Anders Mira, who moves on up another one. So Boomy trying to hold station with the likes of his teammate Pulisic and Ross McFarlane, but there have been some good movers through, but they've settled down into pace, and where you could make big gains through the field. I think in a field like this one now, everyone's taking an extra step up. I think it's a little bit tougher to do that here, as we'll take a little look then over back here at the front of the field, 1, 2, and 3, where Thurtle hasn't been challenged, but Tommy Vidal here, who is second at the moment, he's got 6 places between him and his nearest Pro-Am challenger, which just happens to be his teammate, Ivan Turnison.
Yeah, Vidal doing quite well here in second place, holding off Sedgwick, who much better start than earlier on in this evening. So great to see the number 11 sitting there quite comfortably in third place. Of course, you see Duffner and Stout still neck and neck for fourth and fifth. But yeah, Vettel, no surprise that he's actually doing quite well. He would always thrive at the front whenever we would have some of these reverse races, and Thurtle opening up a little bit bigger gap each and every corner in that number 70 Porsche. So far so good up at the front. Just at the back where we've once again seen a lot of mayhem to start off this race.
Yeah, there's a lot of mayhem that sorts itself out then, as now they can settle down and focus on the single overtakes that need to be done. And maybe if they have got themselves in a bit of traffic, they can't get by a car in front that they need to, how early do you decide to make that stop? Now, they can go as far as 12 minutes, so we're about 8 minutes into it. I think we're 4 minutes away from any scheduled stop for an early go. This is what's happened then to Tristan Engelstad, who's gone through Aspar corner, and that's a case of a blink and I'll miss you and I'll say goodbye.
So long farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye by Engelstad. We'll see if he can get that back underway, but I have a feeling that that's going to be race over for him. There's Thurtle now trying to hold off Vettel and Sedgwick, I should say, for the lead. That half-second lead has shrunk just a little bit, but Thurtle doing what he can to stay up front. Not much of a change there as we see Paul Smith go up as Engelstad back, and yeah, he's gone once again, so it might be game over for the number 57 driver in the AM class. But I think we're going to see a battle for the lead. It will be 3 cars, will it be 5 cars? Only time will tell.
Well, it could be 3, it could be 6, if you want to also include Nicholas Gross there for Venari Racing, who is on the back of this with Stout, with Duffner, then looking to push then for altitude frame and really trying to keep foot in play. This is 7, David Baker, then for the WSR Legends. He's been around for well over a decade now, has David Baker. He's got Turnison there behind him, then Schwerker, the Pro-Am, Alexander Davidson, Michael Gray, Luca Phillip, Ethan Critchley. I tell you what, it's rush hour, and right now playing tractor at the moment is David Baker.
Rush hour pays my bills. Great to see that happening here in the south of Spain as Baker doing what he can to keep all those fast drivers of Tennyson, Schlurka, and Davidson behind him. More worried about keeping Alexander Davidson in my rearview mirror. Of course, a lot more cars behind that train. The Arthur Thurtle train chucking its way around that final sector, setting up for Jorge Lorenzo, and everybody kind of happy holding station for the time being. Just let's see if we can get that bigger gap so those fast cars we'll have to work just a little bit harder. But you see the locomotive of David Baker just working its way down the pit straight.
Well, I look at James Boumet, for example. He's not yet to William Guthrie to make the move, and McFarlane's not gone too far, and neither has Poulsen. They will be keeping a similar pace at 36.2, for example, for Critchley in the middle of the pack. Boumet in a 35.8 after a 36.2 up front. So you're talking about what's the gap you've got to pull back. Well, it's 7.5 seconds right now, nearly 8 for James Boumet. At this current rate, he's not going to make his way up through the order and catch these drivers at the front. This might be a much different race 2 that you see compared to others, where you just got to get what you can out of it rather than expect that you could win each and every single race by just hard charging it through the field. There you can see the PAA car then that just holds itself steady there for Tommy Vidal. Change for position then as Turnison side by side back there now with the driver for Venari of Schwerker. Schwerker to the outside's got it. That brings Alexander Davidson on the outside. He has to check up on the brakes, and so too does Michael Gray there through Aspar. Oh, what
could he
back?
lose one, maybe 2? Oh yeah, okay. It's one of the
Nikolai Poulsen then on his own there, Jeremy, has just run into the back of Ross McFarlane through Aspar, and he's lost all the grip off the front.
As I say, one of the Falcons, which is very rare to see them with a mistake, but Pulitzer, he's fallen back into the likes of Joe Newman and Harrison Crowther as well. As we go back to this battle for the lead, Vidal really closing in. That Mustang trying to do all it can to catch up to the Porsche of Thurtle, but they will have a lap car to deal with here shortly. You see them going around Curve of Michelin.
Yeah, we'll take another look here. It's only a 28-degree track temperature, even though it's bright and sunny conditions, so it's still cold. They can see tiny tap on the front, loosens up the front of that AMG Mercedes and slides it round. They don't really have that much grip to put in. They're putting a lot in because there's a lot of cars 54 that are going on this at Jerez de la Frontera here in Andalusia, but they started with a 30% track usage, which I would say out there, Jeremy, is quite moderate for what you need. You get to about 50%, you already start to see a bit of marble build up on the outside.
I think that's right about there. I mean, could we have more to make things a little bit more spicy? Yes, but 30%, that's it's a good number for the amount of field that we have here. As you saw on board with Sedgwick in the Aston Martin, trying to close in on Vidal, your Pro-Am leader, sitting in second place. And now Vidal looks like he's getting a little impatient, trying to keep Sedgwick behind him, but keep in touch with Thurtle, because Thurtle, he's been holding steady this whole race. And I have a feeling that some of your fast drivers in the back might come in for a quick pit stop.
They might do. They also might not, and will elect to go as late as they possibly can. No takers here at this point in time, as it's a slightly half-defensive move there from Tommy Vettel, moving through. So Vidal doing what he can just to keep Jack Sedgwick at an arm's length. And Jack is very patient with the pace that he's got. He's normally someone that likes to assess what the race is going to be. Mira there in the background going side by side, as that looks like William Guthrie dropping down and losing the place there. So William in that Mustang may be struggling, and the Mustang was the car tour de force then as they went earlier on, but the RAA Sim Sport car is doing just about what it needs to here to keep itself steady, with Boumet just in front of Farland, and then Philip Corpinari, the next car in the line. Guthrie just keeping himself happy. He's got the result he wanted from race one, but now he's got to try and build it up with a race 2 result. But when you're stuck in the long train like this, the easiest thing to do is tick off laps and make sure you're not picking up instant points.
Yeah, fourth and glass right now, sitting in 16th. Got to try and get at least Schwarka and Tennyson to do something here in 8th and 9th. But when you're stuck behind all these fast drivers of Mira, Boumet, McFarland, and Phillip, it's going to be tough to get around. We're watching David Baker still holding off Schwarka and Tennyson, as we mentioned. And now Schwarka knocking at that door of 7th place. It's Mustang on Mustang. Don't be Mustang on Mustang violence, but still down the back straight, the second sector, I should say, heading into third. The Pro-Am second place driver doing all he can to try and catch up to the pro driver of David Baker.
Well, a move here would be important for Schwerka. David Baker would be a very good piece of clearance. Just for note, in AM, it is, again, Seaman Andre Livingston who leads that, but it's Janusz Shahaltin then who is there behind. So Janusz Shahaltin then will be hoping, the Belgian, to chase down Livingston to go and get that done for category. No moves then as detailed at the front, but it has very firmly become a group of 6 rather than 2 groups of 3. So slow but steady progress from Jan Dufner to get to the back of Jack Sedgwick. Now you're going to have to start wondering here who places themselves where, and if it's a case of just slow clearance, how good's it going to be? Vidal taking a bit of a wider line, using more of that AstroTurf runoff there on the outside, and then hitting the brakes down through. Now here's an issue for Leander Gabrielsen, blinking about like nobody's business.
Little flash here, flash there by Gabrielsen, and watching him on timing, trying to keep up to Joe Newman. But Newman, to tell you what, doing the best he can to keep advised in case Gabrielsen ends up where Newman doesn't want him. But that's just how it's going to be. Back to this battle for the lead, as Vidal trying to see which way he can get around and take the lead, be the first Pro-Am this season to get up to the front, but he's not going to get there that easy if he keeps dropping a tire off here, dropping a tire off there.
That's more than
because
one.
the Sedgwick Dufner.
That's 2, and he'll get another one there. And look at this, move around the outside. Jack Sedgwick gets it, exactly the point you were making there, Jeremy. That was brilliant. He was dropping tires off, feeling the pressure, and there goes the place.
Not only is he dropping tires, but he's also adding points. You don't want to do that, especially this early in the race, because we've seen how later on in the race, it just gets messier and messier. Here's Luca Philippe coming around, and a little bit of a wiggle into the gravel trap, and that's a hard hit.
It is. He's taken the toe back to pits as Luca Philippe, and that is a big shame. He was right in that middle pack group that was trying to do all that work, and you can see he's got no steering right. Can't bring it back. Now, does Andy Archer have some troubles as well in the 555? Looks like our cameras couldn't quite catch him, which indicates he was off the circuit at that point in time. So I think that was quite telling in the way that it all went. Front six still there again, and Jack Sedgwick for the first time can now have full license to go out there against Arthur Thurtle. McFarlane now having to play defensive at the moment. You've got Boume there and Mira going at it, and they're not making that much progress with the cars in front. Critchley's been able to get a gap away after the contact there for Philip, and so now all of a sudden they realise we're behind the 8 ball, we've got to catch up, but the magic 8 ball says try again later.
Think about it this way, too, Jake. It only took us 2 races for old dance partners McFarlane and Boume to catch up to one another. It also took a reverse grid, so McFarlane just playing the chaser this time once again, but it's only for 13th. It's not like it's anything of consequence as of yet, but both of those drivers, as we see, so one car go into the pits, so we'll see Critchley into the pits in the 97. He'll take the answer to the call. We'll see what he can do here in the pit stop as he falls down into the order, but really no surprise that Boume and McFarlane have found each other once again.
No, they're like magnets to each other, and Ethan Critchley is going to need... Critchley's out, so something's happened to Ethan Critchley. I'm not sure what it would be. I wonder whether he's taken that to the pits and maybe something of a personal circumstance, because there looked nothing wrong with the car. He has retired the car from the race. So Ethan Critchley is out here at this moment in time. We'll have to catch what was up with Ethan there through this race too, which has forced him to leave the race early. But right now, on the brakes, keep an eye out on Dufner diving for the inside. Doesn't quite get the angle there on Tommy Vidal, but is certainly proving he's got a lot of change for 10th as Michael Gray gets the move done on Ivan Turnison right now. So that's going to be a change that is good for Gray, because that puts him 3rd in class.
Thought Dufner was going to make a very late dive bomb on Vidal, but does not. Michael Gray quite in this battle between he and Alexander Davidson. Of course, behind him, you've got Tennyson in the Pro-Am, so a battle for 3rd in Pro-Am right now between the Mercedes and the Lamborghini. There's Dufner trying to close in on Vidal. Once again, Vidal getting the pressure. Here comes Dufner to the inside. Does Stout join him? And he actually might as they work their way around Jorge Lorenzo.
Muscled him out the way, said you're not going to get the line, and suddenly it's all eyes on for what is Carol Stout, who is on the outside. Stout trying to get that one pinched, and it's going to need to go the long way around. Ross McFarlane now into the pit. Big block defence into turn 2. That forces the Venari car Gross around the outside to try and get this move. And look at the freight training for Tommy Vidal. Nothing he can do about it. And soon Baker, Schwerker and Davidson will be there, and that would be the Pro-Am lead that would then be fought for in that scenario. 2 clear now at the front in Thurtle and Sedgwick.
That's only going to be a matter of time before Schwarka makes his way into the battle for Pro-Am, as you're watching a great defensive battle back here. Look at Stout holding off Gross there through the 3rd sector, and that's given Baker a chance to close in as well, as Stout and Gross sitting there for 4th place.
Here comes Philip Schwerker down to the inside at Aspar, which can be very decisive as a corner. It's done. Follow on through. Alexander Davidson gets a wonderful run. Then off for the exit. Baker sitting through. Look at this for a crossover. Then in towards Palucci. Alexander Davidson slice and dice with the pass. Great stuff there by the driver who was so close last season to the title.
Absolutely fantastic out of the Mercedes, but that's given Schwarka a chance to stay there once again. And look who's coming to the inside of Gray. It's Tennyson, as they're side by side for not only overall position, but position in the Pro-Am title as Prada comes into the pits. Schwarka is held off just a little bit as Gray's going to take that turn in 92. Look at that wiggle. That was absolutely fantastic move on Davidson.
Yeah, you need good foresight to know that the door's going to open up for you for Palucci. That's experience, and it tells. James Boumet also into the pits, the winner from race 1, the reigning champion. So that one then also, worth note in this race. Thurtle and Sedgwick then, and here comes the first real chance for Jack Sedgwick to have a go at Arthur Thurtle for the lead at just over the halfway stage. Going to really try and work this one around the outside. Door is shut by Thurtle on the exit, so he staved off one attempt down at Danny Pedrosa corner. He will look around and think there are going to be more. At the moment, Porsche then against Porsche, as it is, Porsche versus Aston Martin at the front, and the Porsche very slippery in a straight line. The Aston Martin, suddenly a car that hunks itself down very good in the corners.
Well, something we saw last season, too, is the Aston Martin really came out to its own the second half of the season. We saw some drivers make that switch to the Aston, and it's interesting to see so few Astons with as much as we saw last year. Sedgwick not going to make a move here yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries something in Expo 92 as he's just sitting there waiting and still gets a good jump off of Lorenzo and goes down the straightaway. He's going to lose a little bit, but that just goes to show you how the 992 just handles in a straight line.
Paddy Falconer, Cito Pons over the top, losing grip there through the DCW racing car. Boop into the Armco there on the inside. That would have been concerning. No move at Michelin then from Jack Sedgwick. He's got to set himself into line. Jan Dufner is the one who is trying to give chase with Stout there in 4th, Gross in 5th, Vidal in 6th position, still holding a couple seconds worth of margin over the likes of Davidson and Schwerka, who are trying to close themselves in. Sedgwick again gets a wonderful run over Cito Pons, and Thurtle is just being a nuisance here, middle of the road on the defence. He covers just enough of a lane so the inside doesn't become an option. Tries to cut back, does Sedgwick, but again, he's not able to get himself out of this trouble, and the more defensive lines that Arthur Thurtle gets, the more drivers behind him join the group, and the more likely this becomes a case of Sedgwick having to look back in the mirrors rather than forward.
And that's something that Thurtle wants, in spite of Sedgwick just getting a little bit of touchy there, coming off the past couple of corners, and a little bit of a jump there out of Thurtle. Does Sedgwick make a move heading into Lorenzo? He might be close enough, but then again, we've seen Thurtle kind of take the middle of the road approach. Does he do that? And indeed he does. Makes the defensive line work for him coming around that final corner. Now here's the thing, Sedgwick can use that lap car as a pick. Does he try it, or is that going to be a Thurtle move there as they work their way down the pit straight once again? Thurtle's a little bit closer, but not able to make anything happen through Expo 92. But Dufner, he's hot on the heels of this battle.
I'll tell you what I'd do if I'm Jack Sedgwick this lap and I still don't get the move done. I'd come down in, I'd take my pit stop, and I'd try and get him that way, because at the moment it's not working. So this is Turnison who's down into the pits. Does he overshoot it? Oh, he miles overshoots it. Oh, how does he get that one stopped just off of the racing line? He finds the reverse gear, it takes a little bit, and then he jumps down in, and Turnison I think is going to get away without then a penalty. On again it is at the front. Sedgwick trying to find that angle, but again it's covered by Thurtle, who's slippery in a straight line in that Porsche 911 992. There, the GT3R version then of the Porsche from Leipzig. But for the moment, here comes Jan Dufner. The German has now joined the party, and that is going to be cause of concern in the ears of Jack Sedgwick, who's now going to have to figure out where he wants to go, how he wants to find these moves, and they will soon hit on Gianni Terha, who is there in front of the lap traffic. Out of Palucci they go.
Complex. There, he has Sawtell Har up there, but Thurtle really putting that Porsche wherever he wants and keeping Sedgwick behind him. Let's see what happens. And yeah, if I'm Sedgwick, I'm coming into the pits now. Delhar comes into the pits, but oddly enough, Sedgwick stays out. Now has Duffner to his inside through Pedrosa. They're side by side. This is not what Sedgwick wanted. He should have come into the pits because it could have staved off this attack.
Well, Duffner's going to have to go the long way around of 2 corners if he wants to get it done. He holds well through the first part, but he's not got the clearance here. He needs to be brave on the brakes. Michael Gray into the pits. Harrison Croter pits. 92 ways of getting it done at turn 1. At Michelin, there are no ways of getting the move done there for Jan Duffner. And at the moment, he will look at Carol Stone, who is there sitting behind. He'll want in on the piece. Now to the outside of Cito Bonds. Arthur Thurtle will be chuckling. He has walked to a 1.1 second gap.
Man, you would think that Arthur Thurtle was head of the Ministry of Defense because that was one defensive move after another that he had to throw on Sedgwick, and now Sedgwick has to defend himself over Duffner, Stout, and even Gross. This battle keeps growing and growing because there's Tommy Vettel, who we saw back there as well, and pretty soon you're going to enter into the conversation, Alex Davidson.
But think about the drivers you have pitted, for example, like James Boumet. That could be a driver that you'll be worried about where his placement is in the road. Lucas Prada also comes to mind at the moment, who's just behind Boumet. Boumet, for example, has just come out ahead of Harrison Croter and Michael Gray, and will be looking around and thinking, well, I'm not quite where I want to be in this group. He's had to work through a lot. Now here comes a car into the pits, and it's from the back of the group. It's Nicholas Gross who's making that call. With 17 3/4 minutes, he decides, I want to try and undercut.
And of course, he brings at least one other, that's David Baker, with him. So we'll see where these two end up. That's going to promote Mira and a whole bunch of other drivers up through the field. So we'll see how quick this pit stop is out of the number 35 right now in about 6-7 seconds as they come around in through the 1-2-3 complex. But Davidson, he's got Schwarka working all over him. This is just so weird to hear Davidson having to defend over somebody that's not named James Boumet.
Well, both AM leaders come in, so both Seaman Andre Livingston and Janusz Hultain is also in. So Hultain will be then trying to make that stop. Benjamin Gregory is also in the pits too, but it is a case of Alexander Davidson having to look behind and looking a step behind here at Jerez. Maybe a circuit that doesn't quite gel with him as much. Philip Schwerker is proving that he, as a Pro-Am, has a lot of pace to go and use and could be someone to eye up then for the Pro-Am Championship, with Tommy Vidal then just in front. Sedgwick has caught the back of Arthur Thurtle here, so Jack Sedgwick can Jack the lad swing his way into the race lead with 16:22 on the clock. Right now, I'd be screaming at Jack Sedgwick, get down that pit lane. And will anybody mind at this stage? Duffner was losing ground, and so too was Carol Stoke. Both of them hit pit road.
I'm still surprised that Sedgwick has not pitted yet because of how many attacks he's had to take between Thurtle and Duffner and Stout, who both are in the pits. I think next time by, we might see the 11 come in and answer the call. Of course, Thurtle might wait another lap or two, but either way, this battle for the lead heats up once again as they work their way out of Curve of Michelin, headed down the 3-4 complex. And Thurtle, I'll tell you what, if he can defend this win, it's a fantastic way to take it. However, still the question mark is, where will he end up at the end of the pit cycle?
I'm looking at Nicholas Gross, who is just going through turn 1 right now, and he's just got crossed up by Carol Stote. So your new leader in that group, Jan Duffner, who has made the calls then on pit stop. So very well done. No move again. Down at Pedrosa Corner, with likes of William Guthrie, Lucas Prada, Ross McFarlane. The early stop has not paid off. Boumet still finds himself a handful of seconds off of the quick drivers at the front, so this is huge as far as they go. Just behind them, Tommy Vidal having to fight Alexander Davidson, with Philip Schwerker then still sat in that, and Schwerker has just been slowly seeing carrot on a stick dangle and trying to get that place over and over and over again. How many times can I go for it? 1 in, 1 out. Jack Sedgwick's got 1 lap to now build this margin.
Well, that was absolutely textbook by Thurtle. Wait till the last second to come into the pit, and now the game is afoot. Sedgwick is into the lead. He didn't get it the way he wanted to, but Thurtle, Vidal, and Schwerka are all into the pits as well.
Yep, so this is right at the limit of what you can do. A lap more for Jack Sedgwick. This needs to be everything and then some. They will take their fuel only. No need to change their tyres. They're only got to go a little bit longer. Now, where are they going to come out in comparison to some of their rivals? Gianni Terha is leaving right now. You start wondering now, where is Jan Dufner? He's just coming along the main straight right now, and Dufner is going to get the clearance then on Tommy Vidal. And where is the rejoin then, as Schwerka is going to come out just ahead of Carol Stone, who's going to lunge down the inside and put a car in between it for the Pro-Am lead.
Absolutely fantastic pass for the Pro-Am lead. We'll see exactly how that fares out here in the closing stages. But Sedgwick, let's see what he can do around these final couple of corners as that battle rages on. You see Anders Mira and Alexander Davidson also behind Sedgwick. And it's going to be only a minute time. Oh, it's a touch there. Headed into Danny Pedrosa.
Well, Schwerka wanted none of that. He drops by, he lets his teammate go through, then at Venari. That is going to be Nicholas Gross, who's now going to give license to attack. In comes Jack Sedgwick. In will follow Alexander Davidson. In comes Anders Mira. He'll be joined by Nikolai Perlison, who is into the pits. Leander Gabrielson will also jump in. So Arthur Thurtle, how good has your outlap been? Sedgwick now running himself down to the third to last pit box. He will then take his service of just putting in fuel into the car, and will it be enough? Thurtle is making his way now to the final corner of Jorge Lorenzo. He needs this one to work. It's a 10.8 for Alexander Davidson, a 9.8 for Nikolai Perlison, 11.3 for Jack Sedgwick. It's a long stop, and here comes Arthur Thurtle along the main straight. Here comes Arthur Thurtle back into the race lead. You still got to find a way through, Jack.
0.2 of a second. I'll tell you what, I'm surprised he didn't short fill it, but then again, you still need enough fuel to make it to the end. Sedgwick closing in on Thurtle. Of course, you had some very fast drivers behind Davidson and Dufner breathing down your back, Jack. Don't worry about what's behind you. Worry about what's ahead of you. You know you can get the Thurtle. It's just a matter of getting around him as they work their way through Seatil Pond. Down the straightaway they come. Not too far away to make something happen, but you still can reel them in.
I wouldn't want to be Colin Sansom. He's over on the right-hand side, because back to 11th is the group right now, where James Boumet is on the back of it. As it stands, they're side by side, as Tommy Vidal right now is going to have a real argy-bargy moment with Carol Stoke, and he gets the run around. So Vidal's through, but Stoke's going to throw one back there in the background, a shot. There's Boumet in 11th place, and the move done by Stoke gets the move done. His teammate Perlison now trying to work around the outside then of this next section, trying to cut up Tommy in towards Palucci. Look on board there on the bottom of your screen. Close but no dice, and everyone tripping up over each other. That's Anders Mira that's there in front of the number 20 that we take a look with at the moment, and he's not going to get a lane here through Ferrari. Look at him, throw a blanket on him.
Absolutely fantastic. Will they make it out of Lorenzo in one piece? So far, so good. What a pass there as Schwerka goes up around Gross. They're still leaning on each other, headed towards Expo 92. Who's going to make it through there in one piece? As Vidal is still sitting in 6th place, but Mira, he's tied to the inside, gets that good line. I'll tell you what, if you could keep James Boumet behind you, you're doing something special.
Yeah, James Boumet is brilliant at finding moves, and now he moves across the circuit trying to find a lane. You won't get it at 4 because side by side, Schwerka has contact there with Anders Mira. Mira holds it by sticking the foot down on the noisy pedal, holds the slide well. Schwerka on the outside. Boumet now is going to need it all the way through. Thurtle defending the line for all he's got now, because he's got 10 more minutes to hold on, and it's been thorny to get by Thurtle in this race. Battle for the lead on the bottom, battle for your 9th place then on the top of your screen.
Thorny's a nice way to put it. So I would say it's been a spicy battle for the lead between Thurtle and Sedgwick this whole entire race. Of course, now they're going to have to deal with some lap traffic once again as this battle for the lead just continues to get better and better. This is World GT Racing at its finest. Does Sedgwick put a nose out front? He does not, as he's trying his best to get around the altitude-freeing Porsche. And once again, Thurtle with a nice defensive move through Jorge Lorenzo. And I'll tell you what, Sedgwick just scratches his head trying to figure out how he can get around this number 70.
Lap traffic in front is Michael Evdoka, who was involved in a lap 1 incident in this race. Andrew Archer gets a black flag penalty for too many incidents, so he'll have to come in and serve it. Evdoka pulls over to one side, and Sedgwick here has free rein to attack. Davidson in third is a little bit lost, so too Duffner, so too Stote at the moment, as behind them as well. Gross trying to work through Anders Mira and managing that one to hold at the moment. Sedgwick up towards Cito Pond. This is where the Aston Martin has had such a better run compared to the Porsche that's middle of the road and understeering through. This is the best chance Jack Sedgwick's had. He tries to fight all the way to the inside. It is covered every stage of the way. Outside, you're going to have to go, Jack, to get it done. But Arthur Thurtle knows how to command at Pedrosa Corner. Nobody gets by him there.
I tell you what, Thurtle's just so good coming out of Pedrosa Corner. And once again, Sedgwick has to mount yet another attack. The interested spectator is Alexander Davidson. Thing to go is black flag. Oh, contact. Altria not having a good race here in race 2.
No, that was just clumsy from Ben Altria. He locked up a brake on the inside and then had to go straight on. Tehar now with a black flag penalty. Your leader in AM is still Simon Andre Livingston, and he's got two cars in between him and Schadlin at this stage. A look now to the final corner of Jorge Lorenzo. You can find any Spanish bike rider out there to try and get a move. That's going to be huge then if you can get the passing card. A pass as well then as Gross is going down the order. Ben Gregory gets run over then along the main straight as he struggled there with oversteer out of Michelin.
Boumet's fallen down the order. He has lost several spots, now down to 18th.
That's going to be trouble at the final corner. He tried to go around the outside of the Venari car of Nicholas Gross, and because of the tiny contact between them, he's there. Here's the replay. It's on camera. He just got a tag, and James Boumet drops 8 places for his troubles. Tingor has now got a black flag penalty as well.
Just a rough race for some of our fast drivers in race number 1. Of course, that's the risk you take here with this inversion, and just you hate to see it from the defending champion. And I think that this is the closest that Sedgwick has been through Pedrosa. So Thurtle just getting chipped away here by our second place driver. And Sedgwick, he's playing some mind games here. Would not be surprised if near the close of this race he makes one desperate attempt for the lead, because he has just been all over him like a cheap suit.
Well, he has been trying every which way and twice on Sundays to get this pass done, but on a Monday night, Arthur Thurtle is proving to be unconquerable at this moment, and they are letting in Alexander Davidson close into this battle. Thurtle knows there's 2 places to cover off the move. He's defensive again here into the final corner. He's got to extend the corner nicely. Sedgwick still with half a bit of overlap, but that's not going to do in the Aston Martin. You're not going to get the move done like that, and they're looking at the clocks. They're doing minute 36s out there. There's just 4 laps to go here at Jerez, and this second race is proving to be an absolute nail-biter because Alexander Davidson has now joined the party, and for a driver who has been second best today, he's looking at just 2 places, and he can right what went wrong in terms of natural pace in race 1.
And Davidson's not a driver you want to let into any battle here, because he will take what he thinks that he needs to get up one more position. Sedgwick has lost a little bit of ground here as they go through Cito Pond, so Thurtle could take a deep breath and use the racing line headed into Pedrosa. But again, that's given Davidson a chance to reel in his Mercedes into that 3rd place and try and get 2nd place as Sedgwick closes in once again. 5 minutes left to go on this clock. It's still anybody's race to be on the podium. Thurtle, Sedgwick, Davidson, who you got?
It's a breather at the moment, though, for Arthur Thurtle. It's not as close as previous laps, and he'd be happy for that Jack Sedgwick isn't. breathing down his neck. The gap certainly opening up. Give credit as well today for Harrison Crowther. He's up 20 spaces. Got a driver's eye view of Alexander Davidson then for WSR at the moment as he looks to try and work through. That looks like Adidas colours that he's running with here. I'll correct myself then as he tries to work on through up and on the brakes they go. Not quite is the argument that is going to be had. So they're going to have to figure out a different way to go through. It is Adidas racing by WSR colours for Alexander Davidson. But right now, hold yourself steady, keep your nerves down, because you know how critical these laps are going to be. Every braking zone for Arthur Thurtle. His legs are going to be jelly right now.
Legs are going to be jelly. Arms going to be a little bit sore as well as through 3 once again. Thurtle having that Aston Martin breathing down his neck a little bit, but Thurtle opening up just a little bit of gap, not too much though, as you've got 2 very quick drivers in Sedgwick and Davidson. Hot on your tail, right under that rear wing. Does Thurtle go take the defensive line? He will, as Sedgwick gets a great jump off of the turn and now sets up. I think he's going to be side by side through Pedrosa, but we've seen this game before. He's even closer than we've seen on the past couple of laps. Here comes Sedgwick, but Thurtle still able to save off the attack.
The track falls away late through that corner, and that's why the outside line hasn't worked for Jack Sedgwick yet. Anytime he attacks, he's got to worry about, does Alexander Davidson send a soiree down towards the inside? Is this going to be one where it's going to work? Are you going to have to go to the 50% move, the 40% move, Jack, if you want to get it done? Arthur Thurtle has been answering all the quiz questions correctly at the moment, but again, through Alex Creville over towards Ferrari, this is where we've been seeing medium to high-speed corners is the advantage of the Aston Martin. Again, it's defended, but a little bit late and a bit deep, and it's a block defense there from Arthur Thurtle. Just about covers off the line there on the mistake he's made, but he is now starting to make mistakes on track. Back to Expo 92 with 2 to go.
Tell you what, now Sedgwick trying to size up how it's going to take him to get around if he can keep Davidson behind him. That's 2 very good questions for Sedgwick. Thurtle just has 1. How do I stay in the lead? And it's becoming easier and easier as the sands on the hourglass keep sinking down to the bottom with the final amount of laps that we have left. Working out of turn number 3 once again through 4, and now the right-hander, Cito Pond. That's where Sedgwick has been at his best. He gets on the throttle and closes in on Thurtle as both of those drivers will take the middle ground. Davidson's going to join in once again. Sedgwick pops out to the outside, going into the heavy braking zone. It's not going to be enough this time, but it's going to be enough for Davidson to stay under that rear wing of Sedgwick.
If these 3 tangle, Jan Duffner is at 2 seconds back to try and pounce on all of this. Tommy Vidal leads in Pro-Am. Am is still currently being led at this moment in time by Seaman Andre Livingston. Little bit of a wide line then through turn 8, then sets itself up. Sedgwick's trying everything he can. He needs a good run through Palucci.
And he's going to get it now. It's just a matter of his Thurtle could drop a wheel and kind of distract him a little bit. But indeed, he doesn't. They work their way through Creville. And so far, once again, Sedgwick closing in. He's to pop to the outside as Thurtle takes that defensive line, compromises his exit, but he still has that lead as we'll be on our final lap. 1 lap to go. Does Sedgwick make a hero's move into Pedrosa, or can Thurtle hold on?
Not here at Expo 92. This is the critical lap. You've done such a great job, Arthur, of holding back a driver of the caliber of Jack Sedgwick. Alexander Davidson there as well. Moves down on the bottom of your screen too as Leandro Gabrielson is now having to keep his defence up because he's got Gross and Crofer, and then he's also got the likes of Schwerker in there. They're now fighting amongst themselves. Croter trying to get through on Gross. There's Cito Pons now. Jack Sedgwick, how's the run? This has been your diamond that you've shown time and time again. It's another good run. Immediately over goes Arthur Thurtle again. Sedgwick just doesn't have the drive at 230 kilometers an hour. Now onto the brakes then. He'll have to take the outside line again. Now he's got to try and hold close. He still can't get it done on Arthur Thurtle, who's got every single answer all locked up as they now head towards Aspar Corner at turn number 8. Croter up into the top 10 now as they go, but now it's about what Jack can do. He thinks about his cover to get on the defense by Thurtle, but can he be crossed over to Paluki? He covers the apex through the middle. Now he needs a good drive. How good is this? A wiggle from Jack Sedgwick. Alexander Davidson now might have a half chance to attack. There's 3 car lanes here for Arthur Thurtle with just a corner to go. And Jorge Lorenzo ascend from the heavens. Jack, is there anything left into this on-camber corner? No! The defense holds! Arthur Thurtle, the immortal race, is gonna get it done at Jerez! What a win for Altitude Frame Esports Pure Sims! That is legendary!
That is World GT Racing. Unbelievable. Fantastic defense by Arthur Thurtle. Sedgwick, have a day. That effort was absolutely fantastic by both of those drivers. There's your Pro-Am winner. Tommy Vidal, he decides to call it a day. And of course, we still have our AM leaders, which are making their way around the track for the final time. It's Seaman Andre Livingston who holds off the Corvette, and he's going to win in the AM category. I'll tell you what, race 2, that is stuff of legends here in World GT Racing.
The double for Seaman Andre Livingston with the win there in the AM category. But Arthur Thurtle, you consider he was 22nd in race 1, and he's just held off a driver who qualified his car in 3rd position. You can't get everything for free in a race like this. That was one of the hardest fought battles we have seen here in the World GT Championship. That goes down in the annals of one of the great defensive races we have seen in sim racing. Arthur Thurtle's immortal race is there in the number 70. He wins by 0.2 of a second over Jack Sedgwick, who just could not find a way for the Enix Racing 11 to get away through. Alexander Davidson would finish off in 3rd, having started 15th on the grid. Jan Dufner would be 4th ahead of Carol Stoke, with Nikolai Poulsen there in 6th position for Falcon, who might just walk close to the championship lead with that result. Anders Mira will be 7th with Tommy Vidal. Tommy Fast, they're the winner of Pro-Am in 8th for RAA Sim Sport 2. Leander Gabrielson will finish 9th with Harrison Crowther rounding out the top 10. Michael Evdoka will have the fastest lap of the race as Nicholas Gross will finish 11th, and Philip Schwerker for Venari will end up in 12th. William Guthrie then follows with Michael Gray and Joe Newman. James Boumé will be 16th only in race 2 and will feel he left something on the table there with Lucas Prada, David Baker, Ross McFarlane, and a great result today for Nikolai Orgor there in 20th position overall. Started 50th in that race, a gain of 30. Owen Neve and Aidan Carter, 21st and 22nd, with Ben Altria in 23rd. Then it's Ivan Turnerson, who had his troubles. Joshua Turnbull, 25th. Your winner in AM being Seaman Andre Livingston, then with back-to-back wins in the opening 2 rounds. Janusz Haltzin will be there in 27th with Aidan Young. His issues in the Corvette early on, only 28th. Josh Boot and Eric Hartman would round out your top 30. You then got the 2 Bens, Cullen and Bennyworth, 31st and 32nd. Dan Blackwell and Jacques Eva, they're all still in the lead lap, by the way. Andy Shield, 35th. John Lloyd and Paddy Faulkner. Luca Tingor there in 38th for Audi Sport Team Neon Knights. You got Adam Watson, and a tough day at the office for Dennis Grabowski today. 40th only. Paul Smith, good finish there in 41st. You had 46 on the leading lap, all the way down to Nathan Healy. He was joined by Jaco van der Lit, Howard Hassan, Benjamin Gregory, and Tristan Engelstad. Michael Evdoka, the first to lap down with Colin Sansom and Andy Archer. Gianni Terha there getting into trouble, and Ethan Critchley having to retire early from this race from a position where he could have challenged Luca Phillip. Jack Osborne and Phil Samways would also be retirement out there in this go. Well, we are going to get a chance to have a chat with your race winner from race number 2. Arthur Thurtle is here with me right now. Arthur, that goes down as the immortal race. What a defense of 45 minutes. How did you set yourself up compared to the likes of Jack Sedgwick, Porsche versus Aston Martin?
No idea. I kept seeing each lap out of turn 2, out that hairpin at turn 2, that I could then pull a bit on him, and then he'd be on me at the next hairpin, and I just, every lap, keep it on the inside, and the Porsche's got the traction on the exit, so he couldn't get past. I got worried when he pitted a lap later than me. I thought, oh, is he going to do me? And he didn't, and I can't believe it. I'm so happy.
Well, Jerez comes along as a track that is very difficult to go and get the pass. You have to work the overtakes, and we saw that over the course of the run for many through. Were you expecting more of a charge from drivers behind you to make a bigger attempt that they did, or were you happy just to see the drivers you were around with at the start practically be near you through the entirety of the race?
Well, to be honest, I've been doing this for a few seasons now, and I've never started at the front before, so I didn't know what to expect. You know, I've had like a few sort of top 10 starts, but I didn't know normally, because normally in the reverse grid, the real quick guys just come steaming through after a few laps. I thought I'll just keep it clean, hit every apex, and see what happens. And I'm in disbelief right now.
Right, two things then to bring things to proceedings, Arthur. First and foremost, next week is the Nürburgring Combined, the Gesamtstrecke VLN layout. So how are you looking to prepare for the Nürburgring in 7 days? And secondly, how are you going to celebrate a win like that tonight?
I'm probably the only driver on the grid that doesn't even own the Nürburgring yet. So, yeah, I've got some practice to do. And how am I going to celebrate? I don't know. I want to go and wake the wife up and tell her, but I don't think she'll be very happy.
Well, I would say tread at your own caution, Arthur. What a win today. It is there for Altitude Frame Esports Pure Sims. You could have not asked for anything better. Jeremy, that goes down as one of the great battles that we have seen. Final thoughts as we look to close proceedings here on Monday night on RaceSpotTV.
I think that's wife wake up worthy, to be honest with you, because that was an absolutely fantastic race for the win. Congrats to Arthur Thurtle, Cedric also with a great race, but we saw a lot of surprises in the first two races, which, you know, some were expected, others were not. And it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get set for the next round. As we mentioned, it's the Green Hell.
And it is a circuit that pretty much commands its respect. And the fact that this track has been at the epicenter of so much amazing racing that you can now get your VLN license by driving 8 laps here of this circuit in competition on iRacing. It is such a wonderful place and the home of sim racing. Rounds 3 and 4, it will be technical. This one, so it'll be a 30-minute and then an hour. That will be the battleground, and you can catch that March 2nd with us. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. GMT here for this one. From the team that's brought it to you today, from Ramiro, Augustine Cisneros, from the likes, of course, of Jeremy Scott alongside me. My name's been Jake Sperry. Jerez is a difficult circuit to get your moves done. It's a bull ring of a track for these sorts of cars. You have to be methodical. You have to be precise. You have to find the way to go through. No worries, of course, for Seaman Anderson, who had himself everything he wanted. It was a case of Guthrie and Tommy Vidal who'd have been happy, but James Boumet got himself race 1's win, but couldn't make his way up. The defense of a lifetime. Go wake up the missus and watch out Mrs. Thurtle, because Arthur is getting a big win tonight here at Jerez, and he will say, it is all mine, and I am giddy with excitement with the Nürburgring just 7 days away.
What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.